Hello everyone and welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. If you're new here or if you like my videos, please consider subscribing and that lets me know that you're interested in my videos. And also, some people have told me that my channel is a little bit hard to find because of the Miss Thomas is kind of a common name. So if you're subscribed, then you'll be able to find my videos a lot easier. I want to tell you about a book that I just finished called All Girls, and it's a debut novel by a young author named Emily Layden. And I was really impressed with this novel, especially for a debut novel. I have to tell you, I almost, after reading the first chapter, thought about abandoning the novel, and I'll tell you why. Because it describes it's about a boarding school, Atwater boarding school, and it describes these girls and their first year at their boarding school. But as they are driving, at the first pages, I guess I don't know if it's a prologue exactly or if it's the first chapter. I guess it's the first chapter. Everyone is driving to their boarding school and there are signs posted. And as they are approaching the boarding school, they're seeing more of these signs. And the chapter ends telling you what the signs say. And the signs say, "A rapist works here." And I thought, okay, I don't think I want to read a book that's gonna, depict sexual violence. But the thing about this book is it never does. It never tells you who posted the signs or if the signs were true. It never depicts any specific sexual violence. However, the book goes through each girl's year, various girls in the book. Some are 9th grade, some are 10th, some are 11th, and then some are seniors. And it gives you different vignettes about the different girls in the school and their first year at this boarding school, or if they're seniors, their 4th year. But as the year unfolds, you get to know the different girls and you find out how their lives have been tainted or overshadowed by a culture where sexual violence is present. But it doesn't really get into, the specifics. They're just sort of there. And I thought it was genius because, talk about the author's purpose. When I read this, I thought, okay, so am I going to read about an assault? And if so, I don't really want to read this. But actually, no, it never comes up. And so the book confronts you as the reader with the inability or refusal to discuss sexual violence. So it was really an interesting approach, I thought, to dealing with an issue. It sort of confronts you with your non-confrontal approach to something, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense. But I definitely felt like the author was sort of dancing around the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room would be sexual violence, very clearly by never addressing it. So, you learn about these different girls and their approach to the signs, as especially the 9th grade girls, as they're coming into the college or the board. It's not a college, I'm sorry, it's a high school. As they're coming into their boarding school, their high school, as incoming 9th grade girls, and they're seeing these signs, they're kind of confused and anxious, and it's an all-girls boarding school. So I guess it would have been one of the faculty or the spouse of one of the women who teaches there, faculty members, who was accused of sexual violence, but it never really gets into that. So one thing you do is you meet a group of girls who want to do a newspaper article about the signs and the allegations of sexual abuse. And they want to sort of do a whole newspaper featuring healthy communication, between, well, I wouldn't even say between a man and a woman, because there's even a lesbian couple in the book. So just healthy communication about sex, and or even intimacy, in general. And so they start to write this newspaper that they're really proud of and they're really excited about and invested in. And suddenly it gets shut down, So they are, told at the last minute that they can't go to print because it might make the school look bad. And so you're confronted throughout the book with the inability to confront sexual violence. And then there's another girl who talks about her experience, her very limited experience with a boy for the first time. And you, as an adult reading that, I'm thinking like, wow, this girl has no guidance. She has no responsible adult talking to her about, don't feel peer pressure, and take care of yourself and respect yourself. And, you just see these girls in this book, all girls in this boarding school. They're just so, confused and grappling with this subject, and it becomes so apparent to the reader that there needs to be tools, there needs to be some discussion, there needs to be, some leadership, some responsibility in helping these girls to deal with this subject. And I thought it was a really interesting approach, the way that the author confronts you by refusing to confront the issue. I really liked that. And I also liked the way that we met the different girls in the book. We meet different girls who talk about, Lauren, it's her first year as a freshman, and she's just trying to find her way. And she has this roommate. I think the roommate's name was Bryce. I wrote it down here. Of course, I lost my spots. Bryce, yeah, Lauren and Bryce. And Bryce has this, she's like a third generation girl at this all girls school, and she's under tremendous pressure from her mother and, the grandmother and so forth. Their whole world is wrapped up in being an Atwater girl. And so Bryce kind of goes against the grain by being in the newspaper because the mother wants her to play tennis, So it's not necessarily a book about sexual violence. When I read the first chapter, I thought, oh boy, I don't think I want to read this. It actually very rarely comes up. You just sort of get to meet the girls, and it's different vignettes about different girls. But by the end of the vignette, sometimes you're sort of confronted with, wow, this poor girl really needs somebody to sit her down and talk to her about growing into womanhood, and it's very ironic because it's an all-girls school. And it's a very expensive all-girls school. And yes, I definitely, especially as a teacher, I see the need to emphasize academics, but it just felt as a reader like nobody was willing to get behind the wheel and help these girls navigate what it is to grow from being a young lady to a woman. And I could really feel their struggle. I could really feel their confusion as I was reading. And I felt like that is what the author was doing. I felt like she was confronting me with society's inability to confront the subject. I loved it. I thought it was genius. And it reminded me of another text that I read in college, and I looked for it. I know I wouldn't have parted with this book, but it was called Language Awareness. And it talked about, how as a culture, we don't really have a language for sexual violence. We don't have effective ways to communicate that in productive, healthy ways. Our language in itself is sort of stifled when it comes to discussing sex in general, but I would think sexual violence in particular. At least that's what the article was saying. And I remember reading that. I wish I could remember the article. I looked for it. I actually tore my house up looking for it, because it was really, as a girl in college, when I read that, I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. That's true. So, I have boys, so I don't have young ladies, but I think that at least the girls in the book, they really seem to want to talk about some important things that were being dodged over and over in the book. And they would attempt, like through the newspaper, and there were different ways. There were like different what do you call them? Like some people would put flyers anonymous, and even the signs at the beginning, it was like, if you're not going to talk about it, we're going to keep pushing the issue until somebody talks about it. But nobody ever does talk about it. You never even by the end of the book find out like if the allegations are true or anything. So, I don't know. I really felt that frustration in the book, and I appreciated that. And it led me to want to do this video, and I'm not sure what to do with it. I read the book and I thought, you know what, this is a really powerful idea. This is a really powerful concept, that there are things that we're not talking about that are too difficult. And I thought, well, what do you do with that? And I know that it's been a really difficult year in a lot of ways. Aside from sexual violence, there's been a lot of societal tension and things like that just surrounding us. And, how do you have those difficult conversations? And I really applaud Emily Layden for at least bringing that subject to the front of her book. And I would hope that we can at least walk away from the book thinking, you know what? Next time I am confronted with something that makes me uncomfortable or something that I'm not really sure how to talk about, I'm going to try anyway. And I'm just going to be honest and sincere. And, we talk about, as teachers, we talk about with these difficult conversations that you sometimes have to accept that there's no resolution. You have to just go into the conversation, not with a goal. I'm not going to change this person's thinking. I'm not going to make this person think like me. I'm just going to engage in a dialogue with them and open the lines of communication so that we can all be heard and we can all just grapple together with whatever the subject is. And I thought that was just something that is a really powerful message, and I wanted to dedicate this video just to that. I think that it's something that we need to do. We need to be able to talk with each other about difficult things. And maybe we need to help others and give them the tools for how to do that. So, it seems like an insurmountable task sometimes. And I think just being able to go into it knowing that, you know what, I don't have all the answers. I'm not sure we're going to really land on anything, but I'm willing to sit here and listen. I'm willing to work through this difficult subject with you and just sort of grapple alongside you. I think actually that's a pretty good start. And I will also say, because the subject of sexual violence makes me uncomfortable, and I definitely applaud the author for addressing it and addressing it so skillfully. There was nothing graphic or horrific in the book. It was just sort of confronting us with our inability to confront things. People would attempt to talk about it and get shut down. I will say on the subject of sexual violence, though, I one time was having a conversation years ago in college with somebody, and I was reading about something where a woman, went to court as a victim, and the whole legal system made her life so much worse. It's like you're the one on trial if you're the victim kind of thing. That's what I felt like when I was reading about this woman and what she was going through just to stand up for herself as a victim of sexual violence. And I said to my friend, I said, why bother? Now that was a very young, college Miss Thomas. It was a naive response to what I was reading and in the paper about this woman. And I'll never forget, it was an older friend, an older woman, who said to me, the reason you bother is because there's power in saying, I didn't deserve this. I didn't want this. And I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm going to say so. And sometimes that's the best we can do. Sometimes we can stand up and say, this is wrong. I don't agree with this, and I'm going to say so. And no one's going to listen and no one's going to care. And, we're going to walk away feeling even more frustrated and upset. I still think it's worth it. I still think it's worthwhile to say, what we think and to try and deal with the topics that may make us uncomfortable or maybe a little scary in a respectful and productive way. Because really, whether other people receive that or not is about them. And for me, I think it's a matter of self-respect and what I owe myself to just come forth and say, this is what I believe. This is what I think. And I want you to hear that because I value myself and what I'm saying. And so I just wanted to put that out there, whether it is about sexual violence or any other kind of victimization or even just a subtle disagreement. I think it's very worthwhile to really thoughtfully and carefully and respectfully say to whatever person that has offended you, if it's possible, to say, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I believe. And sometimes you have to be willing to do that, understanding that it may not be well received. And, as long as you did it in a way that you can live with, that was respectful and productive, then I still say you can walk away from that conversation saying, you know what? I did that because I owed that to myself. And so that is my rather rambly review of All Girls. But I thought if Emily Layden, I want to make sure, get her name right. If Emily Layden can put herself out there and try and tackle such a difficult subject matter, then I would support that and do the same. So that's my review of All Girls. I hope that you'll read it. It's not an upsetting or disturbing book. And the girls in the book were actually very relatable and very likable. I enjoyed getting to know them each as I read the various vignettes in the story. And I definitely walked away from the book thinking, wow, we really need to have some conversations. I wish somebody would have talked to these girls about some of the things that were going on around them. I think it would have made a difference. So that's what I want to say to you. I hope that you're out there reading and enjoying your books, and hopefully I will continue to put out videos that may or may not have difficult subject matter, but I'm willing to tackle them if I see them and I think they're worthwhile. So I'm telling you what I think, and I respect what you think too. And that's a start. Let's just say what we think and listen respectfully to other people. Okay, well, that's the end of my review. Have a great day. Bye for now.